Hi, I'm Robert. I have a subject that nobody wants to talk about. This subject is very confusing to everybody, and I'm here to give you information and knowledge of what's really going on, and there's many movements out there that they're still not being heard, and we have to get together to get this information to understand this, and that's why I'm here. We will be protesting Wisconsin Capitol February 8th through the 18th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is to introduce and pass numerous bills that removes roadblocks for teens who were wrongfully prosecuted and to stop courts from continuing to prosecute teens for consensual, nonviolent crimes. Crimes that were written for adults to protect teens from adults, but instead used against teens because they were anyone in the legislation. The subject I'm talking about is courts and how they have been prosecuting teenagers for consensual sex with another teenager, like a 15 and a 17-year-old, and sending them to prison. There are numerous across America, and they are struggling to get their justice. I have stories of people suffering on the sex offender registry and how they're being mistreated by everybody, whether it's housing, neighbors, and the confusion of how everybody's grouped into one category. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be on the registry and whatnot, and that they shouldn't have all these laws and rules, but there's things that are wrong that need to be straightened out, and it's for consensual teens. If you're on the registry, you look like a child molester, and these teenagers look like this, and they struggle inside, and many have gone to prison, many have been assaulted in prison, coming out trying to live a life, and they don't have a second opportunity, and they should have never gone to prison to begin with. I'm talking about courts who treat teenagers like this and yet let adults who offend with 13-year-olds and are prosecuting teens worse than them. And this is wrong. The courts have been charging teens, like 16-year-olds, of having child pornography. So they're taking a picture of themselves and charging them for child pornography of themselves and putting them on the registry. I know people don't want to talk to their kids about sex, but they need to. Every state's different. You need to learn it now, because your kid could be the one jumping off the roof next door to the school. And it's so serious. This is very real. In every state, the legislations are written differently and the laws are different. And there's different categories of how the courts were using the terms of anyone having sexual contact with someone under the age of 16, and that they could be sentenced to prison for 20 years. There have been many teens who have been prosecuted and sentenced to prison, and one of those being Gennaro Wilson in Georgia. When he was 17, he was on video of a 15-year-old giving him oral sex. And because of the video, even though the 15-year-old's willing and he's willing, that was enough. So he went to jury instead of taking a plea. And the jury had to find him guilty, even though the jury doesn't agree with what's going on, and then he gets sentenced to 10 years because of the evidence of that video. In 2007, he was released for cruel, harsh, and unusual punishment. And his case is the case that started picking up the Romeo and Juliet bill. The bills that help straighten out the legislations where the courts cannot prosecute teens consensually with another teen. When the legislation bills went through Gennaro State in Georgia in 2007, the legislators did not make it retroactive for him. He was released from his appeal for cruel, harsh, and unusual punishment, which is my case. I was sentenced to prison after admitting to receiving a blowjob when I was 17 and she was 15. I was anyone, according to the legislation. I was sentenced to 8 years in prison for an adult crime, even though I was 17, for having consensual sexual contact with someone 15 years old. I was paroled in 2006. For all these years, people didn't believe me that courts did this and that I must be lying or more to the story. But this is what it is. Please help me. I've been kicked off jobs after clients look me up just to see that we're all grouped together and I look like a child molester. It does not say anything about consensual or our age differences. People think I'm a bad person. You'll see that I went through prison and they said I was a role model inmate. That the SOT, the sex offender therapist in prison, said I shouldn't be there when he went through my file and told the rest of the people in group I shouldn't be here for what I am in prison for. But there was nothing he could do either. I know, it makes no sense. I hear about the legislation in my state in 2017 when it came in, and then I even have through Facebook, when I used to have Facebook before they kicked all the convicted sex offenders off, so now I don't have Facebook, that from Governor Walker that they were making this retroactive for us. And then right before the bills are signed, they slipped out making it retroactive. And because I'm not in custody anymore, that I can't appeal my case, and yet they haven't made it retroactive yet for me, because now the new bills came in to make it retroactive. The year later after Walker signed it, they just put those new bills in to make it retroactive, and then March of 2020 came with the corona, and the retroactive bills are just laying there unsigned, and they're still sitting there. I've emailed legislators and senators to reinstate them. They haven't yet. In June's right here around the corner, and that's when they do bills. And then they sign them in March. I shouldn't be waiting anymore. I didn't hear of Gennarlo's case or the Romeo and Juliet bills until 2017. In 2014, I wanted to fight for my justice. When you go back to the appeals lawyer, I can't appeal my case because I'm not in custody anymore. I'm like, what? Wait. It makes no sense. There's actually a legislation bill out there in other states that have adopted that if you're on the sex offender registry, you are in custody. So then I would be able to appeal my case from scratch. I wouldn't be able to, because in my state, the legislation bills went through, even though they didn't make it retroactive for me either, that people cannot appeal their case because they're not in custody, and there's all these holes of trying to get our justice. So therefore, once that bill's in Wisconsin, then I can appeal my case, and it's taking forever. And I don't think, if I wasn't doing this, I won't think I'd ever get my justice. They're doing illegal plea agreements all around. I want to talk about Brian Banks, the 16-year-old who went to prison because somebody had lied, and he went to prison and served his time, came out, did his parole, and then he was on the registry until the other 16-year-old female says the truth that they never had said. So when he goes to court, his lawyer says, hey, you need to take a plea agreement. The jury's not gonna go for you. They're gonna be all white jury, and that you're a big black football player and you're gonna be found guilty, that there's no chance for him. Take this agreement. He's fighting this, but he doesn't know what to do. And he goes to his lawyer and they tried to make him take a plea agreement, and so the plea agreement is that he would do some time. Well, so when he went to take the plea agreement, the judge accepted his guilty plea but did not accept his plea agreement and just sentenced him to prison, 12 years. So yeah, that's happening. They have been making teenagers take plea bargains, which are illegal plea agreements, and then people are put on probation. A lot of them are being revoked for little things and then getting sentenced to prison or jail time, which both of them are underage. And then when they do this to people, there's no way out. And even when legislation bills go around and change it, they make it so they can't get out. I have so much proof of that. It's undeniable. A lot of this you can see laid out on my website, and all the stuff is all right there. And you can read more of what I've been going through before, during, and after prison, and you'll see what I'm going to continue to keep doing as it continues to grow. And we're going to make change together. And I'm using my story to do it, because nobody's listening, but this is important, and it's unbelievable. I just want the president to pardon me, because I am done waiting. I have a patent that I just received not too long ago where I re-innovated natural wood flooring, which, when I say natural wood flooring, the original way of installing floors were installing raw wood and then pulling out the machines and sanding them. I re-innovated that. Instead of the wood coming and it needs to be fully sanded, it's already pre-sanded basically, where the top texture is raw, unfinished, untreated wood, but it's got a smooth top, or a wire brush, or distressed with hammers or scrapers, and that we just bring it to the job, we install it, we stain it, and finish it. And we don't have to bring out big standing machines to create the dust. My patent qualifies to be nominated for National Technology and Innovation for 2021, and that medal is bestowed by the President of the United States. But because a clause in there, it says whoever is being nominated gets a FBI background check, that could be disqualified. And I'm afraid that because of this offense that I should not have, that I won't win. I do not get the SBA loans everybody else gets, and they are discriminated against sex offenders. I don't deserve that. Why are we putting people in prison and then having them come out? I want to say, first of all, a lot of them, they don't have a driver's license. And a lot of them have child support. So when they get out, they can't get a very good job. And when they do have a job, a lot of times they're paying people to come and get them, take them back and forth to work, and then, to take off to go to group, or for probation, go to probation and go to group. You got to pay for probation, you got to pay for these groups, you got to pay the person to take you there from work, plus you're missing work too. We're not letting these people get to develop to be successful. I can't wait for you guys to get to know me more and know more what happened, and it is just unbelievable. And how recidivism and all this we can slow this down. First of all, we gotta break cycles, and we gotta start communicating with one another. I actually hired a ghostwriter in 2017, but because of financially, I can't continue to keep paying for me to appeal my case, or to go get these writs off, to go get underage sexual activity. And I own a business, and if I do these things, it's going to hurt my business more. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, what do I do? I'm just, you know what I do? I stay at my home most of the time. I stopped enjoying life because I can't have a normal life. And there's so many others like me. And they need to hear my voice, because I'm speaking for them, truly. And I don't even know the kids, but I know other people who have been to the courts like this, and there's more than you think. And nobody's listening because they're not wanting to hear anything about it, but this is true. And so many kids have taken illegal plea agreements and then revoked, and now they're on the registry forever, and they're not living, they're living in shame. They isolate themselves. They feel like they are nobody and have I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to kill myself, but I wish I wasn't here many times.
And I'm a good person, and so many of them are. And what sucks is a lot of them go to prison and they become in that cycle where they can't have that normal life. And I have the most normal life as a sex offender that you can have. I have a lot of successes, even though I don't feel it. But if you knew it, you would be like, wow, this guy did this and this and this. And through all of this, and I'm still here, and I'm still talking, and I'm not gonna stop talking anymore. I'm gonna keep talking. And when I get my pardon and get my justice, I wanna help others, and it is important. It's unfortunate. And yet I know I'm blessed. That, I have good health. I have abilities. Everybody's fighting something inside, that's for sure. But this I should not be fighting. And this is something that I have to face every day. And I can't fix it. And I'm a person, when you have an issue or a problem, you fix it and you face it. Well, I face it, but there's nothing I can do because I've done it.